Captain Vrax of the Drachnid scout vessel Shadow Seeker felt his secondary heart skip a beat as the sensor readings flickered across his neural display. Something wasn't right. The Sol system should have been defenseless, just another primitive civilization ripe for conquest. Yet his instruments detected odd gravitational fluctuations near the system's edge, barely noticeable but definitely artificial. "Analysis complete, Captain," his science officer reported, mandibles clicking with uncertainty. "The anomalies appear to be some form of detection grid, but the technology is unfamiliar." Vrax's scaled fingers tightened on his command chair. In 17 successful planetary conquests, he'd never encountered anything like this. The readings suggested a level of technological sophistication that contradicted all their intelligence about Earth's capabilities. "Prepare to transmit our findings to High Command," he ordered, but the words had barely left his mouth when the ship's communication array went dark. One by one, systems began shutting down. Propulsion, weapons, life support. In the final moments before total darkness, Vrax saw it, a shimmer in space, like heat waves on a desert world, materializing into a sleek vessel of unmistakably human design. Deep within Pluto's military base, Admiral Michael Anderson stood before a holographic display showing the positions of 37 Drachnid scout ships, or rather, their last known positions before Earth's quantum disruption fields had rendered them silent. Each red dot represented months of preparation, years of technological development, and decades of patience. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from her station, "Ghost Squadron reports all targets neutralized. 0 casualties on either side. Containment fields are holding." Anderson nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. The capture of the scout ships had been crucial, not just for gathering intelligence, but for maintaining the element of surprise. The Drachnids couldn't warn their fleet if they never knew what hit them. "Status of the quantum detection grid?" he asked, eyes fixed on the outer system markers. "Operating at peak efficiency, sir. The Drachnids still haven't realized we can track their ships through hyperspace. Their main fleet is exactly where we predicted they'd be." Anderson allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had spent the last 5 years watching, learning, and preparing. While the Drachnids conquered system after system, Earth's unified defense force had been building something unprecedented, a military capable of not just fighting back, but winning decisively. "Show me the prisoner status," he commanded, and a new hologram sprang to life. 37 containment cells, each holding a Drachnid crew in comfortable but secure conditions. Their ships had been disabled so quickly and efficiently that surrender was their only option. Not a single shot fired, not a single life lost. Sun Tzu would have been proud. "Sir," a young ensign interrupted, "the Drachnid High Command just issued new orders to their invasion fleet. They're still operating under the assumption that their scout ships were lost to natural phenomena. They're proceeding with the invasion timeline." Anderson's expression hardened. The next few hours would determine the fate of not just Earth, but every world struggling under Drachnid oppression. He keyed his command frequency, broadcasting to all Earth defense installations throughout the solar system. "This is Admiral Anderson. Operation First Strike is now active. I say again, Operation First Strike is active. All units assume battle stations. Ghost Squadron, maintain position, and continue monitoring the quantum grid. Mars Defense Command, begin powering up the shipyards. Europa Fleet Command, prepare for emergency deployment." He paused, looking at the tactical display one last time. Everything was proceeding exactly as their simulations had predicted. The Drachnids, drunk on easy victories and technological superiority, were walking right into humanity's carefully laid trap. "Ladies and gentlemen," he concluded, "in a few hours, the Drachnid Empire will learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity. Let's show them exactly what Earth can do." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden strength stirred to life. In the shadows of Mars, automated factories accelerated production. Beneath Europa's ice, Massive hangars opened their doors, and in the vast darkness between worlds, Earth's quantum detection grid continued its silent vigil, waiting for the moment when humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy. The Martian shipyards stretched for kilometers through the planet's ancient lava tubes, a marvel of engineering hidden from prying eyes. Admiral Anderson stood at the observation deck of Production Facility Alpha, watching as robotic arms assembled the final pieces of humanity's response to the Drachnid threat. "Beautiful, aren't they?" Dr. Emily Winters appeared beside him, her eyes reflecting the blue glow of plasma welders below. As chief engineer of Project Phoenix, she'd spent the last 3 years perfecting the designs that would soon change the course of human history. Anderson nodded. "How many ships are combat-ready?" 273 Ravager-class destroyers, 95 Guardian-class battleships, and 43 Phantom-class stealth vessels, she replied, pulling up detailed schematics on the reinforced Windows heads-up display, each one incorporating everything we learned from studying those Drachnid wrecks in the Proxima Centauri engagement. Below them, the newest Guardian-class ship, Defiance, underwent its final systems check. Its hull gleamed with a dark, non-reflective coating that made it nearly invisible to the naked eye. The vessel's sleek design bore little resemblance to the bulky Drachnid ships. This was something entirely new. "The neural interface systems?" Anderson asked, remembering the countless hours spent analyzing Drachnid technology. Emily smiled. "Better than anything they have. While they rely on basic synaptic connections, we've achieved true human-machine synchronization. Our pilots don't just control their ships, they become their ships." A massive door opened at the far end of the facility, and a Phantom-class vessel glided silently through. Even knowing exactly where to look, Anderson could barely track its movement. The stealth systems were beyond anything humanity had publicly acknowledged possessing. "Commander Jackson's report just came in," Emily continued, her expression turning serious. "The test run at Jupiter was successful. The gravitational masking systems worked perfectly. The Drachnid sensors didn't detect a thing." Anderson's tablet chimed with an incoming message. "Speaking of the Drachnids," he said, reading quickly, "their main fleet just finished resupplying at their forward base. They'll be here within 24 hours. The production floor erupted in a new flurry of activity as the final preparations accelerated. Crews rushed through their pre-launch checklists while automated systems loaded the specialized ammunition that represented humanity's greatest tactical advantage. "The kinetic weapon systems?" Anderson asked, watching as massive railgun assemblies were mounted onto the Ravager-class ships. Each round is equipped with quantum-guided targeting systems and variable payload options. The Drachnids rely so heavily on their energy shields that they've completely overlooked physical defense. One good hit from these weapons will tear through their hulls like paper. A deep rumble shook the facility as the magnetic launch systems powered up. Through the observation window, Anderson watched as rows of completed ships moved into position. Each vessel represented countless hours of research, development, and testing. Each one carried the hopes of not just Earth, but every world suffering under Drachnid occupation. "Signal from Europa base," Emily reported, checking her tablet. "Their fleet is ready too. We're just waiting for your command." Anderson straightened his uniform and took one last look at humanity's secret armada. The ships below weren't just weapons of war. They were the culmination of human ingenuity, determination, and the unwavering will to remain free. "Send word to all commands," he ordered, his voice firm with conviction. "Operation First Strike enters Phase 2. Launch all vessels and proceed to designated holding positions. The Drachnids want to see what Earth is capable of." He smiled grimly. "Let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget." Throughout the massive facility, klaxons sounded as ships began lifting off in perfect sequence. The rumble of engines echoed through the ancient Martian caves as humanity's fleet took to the stars. In less than 24 hours, they would reveal themselves to the galaxy. And in doing so, they would rewrite the balance of power among the stars. The time for hiding was over. The time for action had begun. Supreme Commander Krasthul of the Drachnid Empire stood on the command deck of his flagship, Eternal Dominion, watching with satisfaction as his invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace. The massive vessel, 20 kilometers long and bristling with energy weapons, led a formation of over 300 warships into the Sol system. "Status report," he commanded, his scaled crest rising with anticipation of another easy victory. "All ships present and accounted for, Supreme Commander," his first officer responded. "No signs of defensive installations or orbital facilities. Primitive radio signals detected from the third planet, consistent with our intelligence reports." Krasthul's mandibles clicked in amusement. These humans wouldn't even see them coming. Just like the 17 systems before, this would be energy spike. His sensor officer suddenly called out, multiple signatures appearing throughout the system. The tactical display erupted with new contacts as Earth's fleet revealed itself. Ships seemed to materialize from nowhere, emerging from Saturn's rings, rising from Jupiter's storms, appearing from the dark side of Mars. Each vessel moved with precision, taking up positions that had been carefully planned years in advance. "Impossible," Krasthul hissed. "Their technology level. They shouldn't be capable of this." On the bridge of the Guardian-class battleship Resolute, Admiral Anderson watched the Drachnid fleet's reaction through his neural interface. The enemy ships were exactly where the simulations had predicted they would be. Their tactical doctrine was as rigid as their hierarchy. "All ships, maintain formation," he broadcasted. "Remember your training. We've practiced this thousands of times." The Drachnid command frequency crackled to life, and Krasthul's image appeared on the screens of every human vessel. "This is Supreme Commander Krasthul of the Eternal Dominion. Your species' attempt at resistance is noted, but futile. Surrender now, and we will ensure your planet's resources are harvested humanely." Anderson allowed himself a small smile before responding. "This is Admiral Michael Anderson of the Earth Defense Fleet. We've studied your previous conquests, Commander. 17 systems, all following the same pattern. But I'm afraid you'll find Earth is something different entirely." "You dare," Krasthul began, but Anderson cut the transmission. The time for talking was over. "Ghost Squadron, you have permission to engage," Anderson commanded. 12 Phantom-class vessels shimmered into visibility directly above the Drachnid fleet. Their sudden appearance sent the enemy into disarray. No one had ever managed to penetrate their formation's defensive screen before. "Pathetic," Krasthul snarled. "Their ships are barely a quarter the size of our smallest vessels. All ships, open fire. Show these primitives the power of the Empire." Energy beams lanced out from the Drachnid warships, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But the human vessels moved like dancers, their neural-linked pilots executing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Not a single shot found its mark. "Impressive display, Supreme Commander," Anderson transmitted. "But allow us to demonstrate some real firepower. Lieutenant Rodriguez, you may fire when ready." The Ravager-class destroyer Stormfront's main railgun aligned with the nearest Drachnid cruiser. The weapon's magnetic coils hummed as they accelerated a tungsten rod to near-relativistic speed. The projectile crossed the space between the ships in a fraction of a second. The Drachnid vessel's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, might as well have been tissue paper. The kinetic round punched through the ship from bow to stern, its hull crumpling like aluminum foil. "All ships," Anderson commanded. "Execute Combat Protocol Sigma. Show them exactly what humanity is capable of." Across the battlefield, Earth's fleet began to move. Each ship took up its practiced position, forming a three-dimensional web around the Drachnid armada. The trap was set, the enemy was in position, and humanity was about to demonstrate just how far they'd come. The real battle was about to begin. The space between Mars and Jupiter erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons as the Drachnid fleet launched their standard attack pattern. Hundreds of plasma beams crossed the void, creating a deadly web of destruction that had spelled doom for countless civilizations before. But humanity had been preparing for this moment for years. Nighthawk Squadron, execute Maneuver Delta, Anderson commanded from the Resolute. Through his neural interface, he felt rather than saw his ships respond, each crew moving with practiced precision. The human vessels performed what should have been impossible. They danced. Generations of atmospheric combat experience translated into space warfare in ways the Drachnids had never imagined possible. Ships rolled and pivoted like fighter jets, using their momentum and inertia in three-dimensional space to avoid every shot. Impossible. Krastful roared as another barrage missed completely. No ships can move like that. Target their engines. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, piloting the Phantom-class vessel Shadow Dancer, grinned as she executed a corkscrew maneuver between two Drachnid cruisers. Her neural link hummed as she became one with her ship, feeling every subtle shift in momentum. Permission to demonstrate our close-quarter capabilities, Admiral. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Show them what we've learned. The Shadow Dancer dove straight toward the nearest Drachnid vessel, its stealth systems making it appear to flicker in and out of existence. The massive alien ship fired frantically, its gunners unable to maintain a lock on the nimble human craft. Martinez pushed her ship into a maneuver that would have killed any pilot relying on traditional controls. The Shadow Dancer spiraled around the Drachnid cruiser's command tower, so close that the energy weapons couldn't track her. With surgical precision, she deployed a cluster of magnetic mines that attached to the enemy's hull. All ships, execute the Artemis Protocol, Anderson ordered as Martinez pulled away. Across the battlefield, human vessels began moving in perfect synchronization. Each ship's position had been calculated months in advance, each maneuver practiced countless times in simulation. The Drachnids found themselves firing at empty space as Earth's fleet seemed to predict their every move. What they didn't know was that their tactical database had been compromised months ago when their scout ships were captured. Every standard attack pattern they launched played directly into humanity's hands. Status report. Krastful demanded as another salvo missed completely. Supreme Commander, we're detecting some kind of gravitational anomalies, his science officer reported nervously. Their ships are somehow manipulating local spacetime to enhance their maneuverability. On the Resolute, Anderson watched the battle unfold exactly as planned. Commander Jackson, begin Phase 2. Deploy the Ravager squadrons. The larger Guardian-class battleships moved into defensive positions as squadrons of Ravager-class destroyers emerged from their shadow. Their railguns aligned with predetermined targets, each one prepared to deliver devastating kinetic strikes. These primitives think they can outmaneuver the might of the Empire. Krastful snarled. All ships, maximum power to forward shields. Prepare to. His orders were cut short as the magnetic mines detonated, creating localized electromagnetic pulses that disrupted shield generators across dozens of Drachnid ships. In that same moment, the Ravagers opened fire. Hypersonic projectiles crossed the battlefield in heartbeats, each one finding its mark with devastating accuracy. By the first egg, Krastful whispered as he watched three of his largest cruisers split apart under the barrage. Their mighty shields, designed to repel energy weapons, had proven useless against humanity's approach to space warfare. All ships, Anderson broadcast across the human fleet, maintain formation and prepare for the next phase. Remember, every move we make pushes them exactly where we want them. His eyes tracked the tactical display as the Drachnid fleet began to cluster together defensively, exactly as their doctrine demanded, and exactly as Earth had planned. The trap was nearly complete. The real demonstration of human military might was about to begin. The Drachnid fleet had clustered into a defensive sphere, their massive ships presenting a wall of energy shields to the human attackers. Supreme Commander Krastful watched from his command deck as damage reports flooded in. Already, 23 ships had been lost to the humans' inexplicable weapons. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer called out, mandibles trembling. The human vessels are taking up new positions. They're surrounding us completely. Admiral Anderson's voice echoed through every Drachnid command channel. "I'll give you one last chance to surrender, Commander Krasful. Your tactical position is compromised, and what you've seen so far is merely a fraction of our capabilities." Krasful's pride wouldn't let him accept defeat. The Drachnid Empire does not surrender to primitives. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship. Show them our true power. On the bridge of the Resolute, Anderson shook his head. "Very well. Commander Jackson, you may initiate the Thunderbolt Protocol." Across the battlefield, the Ravager-class destroyers began to change. Panels along their hulls slid open, revealing rows of specialized railgun batteries. Each weapon was a marvel of human engineering. Electromagnetic accelerators capable of launching projectiles at speeds that bent local spacetime. Multiple weapons signatures, the Drachnid sensor officer screamed. "They're charging some kind of." The void erupted in silent fury as hundreds of railguns fired simultaneously. The projectiles, each one a specially designed penetrator round, crossed the distance between fleets in milliseconds. They struck the Drachnid shields like a hammer of the gods. Energy shields meant to deflect plasma and lasers proved worthless against solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. The rounds shattered into precisely calculated fragments, turning each shot into a shotgun blast of hypersonic shrapnel. Drachnid hulls, never designed to withstand kinetic impacts, split open like ripe fruit. "Status report," Krasful demanded as his flagship shuddered under multiple impacts. "Shields at critical failure. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. We've lost contact with the entire starboard battle group." Lieutenant Rodriguez, commanding the Ravager-class destroyer Stormbreak, watched through her neural interface as the specialized rounds did their work. "Target analysis confirms, Admiral. Their armor is exactly as vulnerable as we predicted. Permission to deploy the Shatterforce rounds." "Granted," Anderson replied. "All Ravager squadrons, switch to Shatterforce ammunition and prepare for synchronized volley fire." The next wave of projectiles was even more devastating. Each round contained a payload of smart submunitions that activated after penetrating the enemy hulls. They sought out critical systems, guided by data gathered from the captured scout ships months ago. "Impossible," Krasful roared as explosions chained through his fleet. "How could they know exactly where to strike? How could they have developed weapons that bypass our strongest defenses?" The answer, of course, was simple: patience, preparation, and the unique human drive to innovate. While the Drachnids had relied on the same tactics and technology that had brought them 17 easy victories, humanity had spent years developing countermeasures for every aspect of their combat doctrine. "All ships, maintain bombardment," Anderson ordered. "Drive them toward the designated coordinates. Commander Jackson, prepare your battle group for the final phase." The Drachnid fleet, still trying to maintain their spherical formation, found themselves being herded by precise railgun fire. Each shot was calculated not just to cause damage, but to force the surviving ships into exactly the position humanity wanted them. "Admiral," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, "enemy fleet is at 60% casualties. Their formation is breaking down. They're exactly where we want them." Anderson nodded, watching as the tactical display showed the Drachnid ships clustering into the kill zone they had planned for months. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The next phase would demonstrate why challenging humanity had been the Drachnid Empire's greatest mistake. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Prepare for the Anderson Gambit. It's time to end this." The remnants of the once mighty Drachnid fleet huddled together in what they thought was a defensive formation. Their ships, many trailing plasma from ruptured power cores, maintained a tight grouping that had served them well in countless previous battles. Supreme Commander Krasful still refused to accept the reality of his situation. "Status of the emergency transmission to High Command," he demanded, gripping his command throne as another volley of human projectiles shook his flagship. "Still blocked, Supreme Commander," his communications officer replied. "The humans have deployed some kind of quantum interference field. We can't get any signals through." On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Anderson watched the tactical display with the calm demeanor of a chess master about to call checkmate. "All ships confirm ready for synchronized jump." "Confirmed, Admiral." Commander Jackson responded from the Guardian-class battleship Vigilant. "All vessels report quantum drive capacitors at full charge. Jump coordinates are locked in." Anderson opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "This is the moment we've trained for." The Anderson Gambit relies on perfect timing and absolute precision. Remember your simulations. Remember your training. Execute on my mark. The Drachnid sensors suddenly detected a reduction in human weapons fire. Their tactical officers reported that the Earth vessels appeared to be powering down their main weapons. Krasthul's mandibles clicked in triumph. "See, they've exhausted their primitive ammunition. All ships, prepare to counterattack. Show these humans the true might-off." Mark. In an instant, every human ship vanished. The sophisticated quantum drives, developed in secret over the past decade, allowed for precision jumps that the Drachnids had never imagined possible. Before the alien commander could finish his sentence, Earth's fleet reappeared. They materialized in a perfect three-dimensional grid, each ship precisely positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. The Drachnid fleet found itself at the center of a lethal sphere, with every human vessel's weapons aligned for maximum effect. "Impossible," Krasthul breathed. "No species has ever achieved such precise coordinated jumps." "Target solutions confirmed," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced from her destroyer. "All ships report perfect positioning. Enemy fleet is contained within the quantum lock grid." Anderson opened a channel to the Drachnid flagship. "Your ships can't jump out, Commander. The quantum lock grid prevents any form of faster-than-light travel within its sphere of influence. This formation has been practiced 10,000 times in simulation. Every ship knows its exact role." The Drachnid commander watched in horror as each human vessel began charging its weapons. From this position, there would be no escape. Every shot would find its mark, and their shields were already failing. "This is your final chance for surrender," Anderson continued. "You've lost over 60% of your fleet. The survivors are trapped, cut off from reinforcements, and about to face a synchronized barrage from every ship in the Earth Defense Force." Krasthul's pride warred with his duty to his crew. Through his command windows, he could see human vessels on all sides, their weapons primed and ready. His mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to prey, caught in a trap centuries in the making. "You knew," he said finally, his voice heavy with realization. "You knew we were coming. This whole battle. We've been preparing for this moment since we detected your first invasion 5 years ago," Anderson confirmed. "Every technology we developed, every tactic we created, was designed specifically to counter your capabilities. Your Empire's greatest mistake was giving us time to get ready." The Drachnid commander looked at his tactical display one final time. His ships were clustered exactly where the humans had wanted them, herded into position by precise artillery fire and calculated maneuvers. The battle had been decided before the first shot was fired. "This is Supreme Commander Krasthul of the Drachnid Empire," he broadcast to his fleet. "All ships, stand down. Initiate surrender protocols." Across the battlefield, Drachnid weapons powered down as white surrender beacons activated. The Anderson Gambit had worked perfectly. In less than 6 hours, humanity had dismantled an invasion fleet that had conquered 17 star systems. The hangar bay of the Resolute hummed with activity as teams of medical personnel and security officers processed the surrendered Drachnid commanders. Supreme Commander Krasthul stood before Admiral Anderson, his proud posture diminished but not broken. "You'll want to see this," Anderson said, gesturing to the holographic display activating between them. The image showed a massive underground facility beneath the Martian surface. "This is where we built our fleet." "Impossible," Krasthul whispered. "The construction yards alone would have taken decades to." 5 years, Anderson corrected. "We detected your first invasion of the Centauri system in 2020. By 2021, Earth's nations had unified under a single defense directive. Everything you've seen today was designed, built, and perfected while you thought we were still launching primitive chemical rockets. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a data tablet. Admiral, the preliminary damage report is ready. We lost no ships, with only minor damage to 12 vessels. The enemy fleet, she glanced at Krastvol, suffered 87% casualties before surrender. The Drachnid commander's secondary heart nearly stopped. Such a decisive victory, it's unprecedented in galactic warfare. Anderson nodded to Rodriguez, who activated another hologram. This one showed hundreds of combat simulations running simultaneously. We ran this battle 10 million times in our quantum computers. We knew every move your fleet would make because we spent years studying your tactical doctrine. Every ship in our fleet was designed specifically to counter your capabilities. The kinetic weapons, Krastvol realized. While we focused on energy shields, you forgot the basics of physics, Anderson finished. Your shields can deflect plasma and lasers, but they're useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. We didn't try to match your energy weapons. We developed an entirely different approach to space warfare. Commander Jackson entered the hangar, carrying the secure data core. Admiral, we've finished downloading their tactical database. The intelligence about their remaining fleet deployments matches our predictions exactly. A hologram shifted to show a map of Drachnid-controlled space. Dozens of systems glowed red, marking the Empire's territory. But now, with their main invasion fleet destroyed, many of those systems lay vulnerable. Your Empire made a critical mistake, Anderson explained. You conquered too quickly, spread too thin. Each subjugated world requires ships for occupation, leaving your remaining fleets stretched to their limit. And now every conquered species will know you can be defeated, Krastvol finished, finally understanding the full magnitude of his failure. The hangar's main screen activated, showing real-time transmissions from across the galaxy. The news of Earth's victory was spreading like wildfire. On 17 occupied worlds, resistance movements were already launching coordinated attacks against their Drachnid overlords. We've transmitted the specifications for our kinetic weapon systems to every resistance group, Anderson revealed. Your remaining ships still rely on the same vulnerable shield technology. They'll be facing enemies who know exactly how to defeat them. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached again. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from 6 different systems. The occupation fleets are being overwhelmed. The Centauri resistance has already liberated 3 worlds. Krastvol slumped visibly. You didn't just defeat our invasion fleet. You've engineered the complete collapse of the Empire. Anderson's expression remained firm but not unsympathetic. We gave you a chance to turn back. We could have revealed ourselves months ago, warned you to stay away. But we knew the Empire would never stop expanding unless it was completely dismantled. The captured scout ships, Krastvol said suddenly. You didn't just study their technology. You used them to send false reports, didn't you? Made us think Earth was defenseless. Sometimes the best trap is one your enemy walks into willingly, Anderson confirmed. Your own pride and arrogance made our victory possible. The hangar bay doors opened as more rescued prisoners arrived. Civilians from conquered worlds who had been held captive on the Drachnid ships. Their eyes shone with hope as they realized that their long nightmare of occupation was finally ending. The age of the Drachnid Empire was over. The era of human leadership in the galaxy was about to begin. 1 month after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Anderson stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, watching as ships from 17 different species gathered around Earth. The liberation of the occupied worlds had proceeded even faster than humanity's models had predicted. Without their main fleet, the remaining Drachnid forces had crumbled in the face of coordinated resistance. Latest report from the Centauri sector, sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, approaching with a data tablet. The last Drachnid holdout surrendered this morning. All previously occupied systems are now free. Anderson nodded, his eyes fixed on the spectacular view before him. Vessels of every size and design filled Earth's orbit. Diplomatic ships, merchant vessels, and free military crafts. Each represented a species eager to establish relations with the civilization that had shattered the unbeatable empire. "The Drachnid prisoners?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Being treated according to the Geneva Convention, sir. Supreme Commander Kraz Tull has been particularly cooperative, helping us understand the remaining military installations." The massive viewscreen flickered to life, showing Commander Jackson's face from his position near the Pluto defense perimeter. "Admiral, the representatives from the Galactic Council have arrived. They're requesting permission to approach Earth." "Permission granted," Anderson replied. "Have their ships escorted to the diplomatic docking station. And Jack," he added, "make sure they understand this isn't a formal submission to their authority. Earth negotiates as an equal." The Council ships, elegant vessels that gleamed like polished crystal, moved gracefully through the gathering of alien craft. They had ignored humanity's existence for centuries. Now they couldn't arrive fast enough to establish diplomatic relations. Dr. Winters reports the technology exchange programs are proceeding well, Rodriguez continued. "The liberated worlds are particularly interested in our quantum drive innovations. The Centauri engineers can hardly believe we developed such advanced systems in secret." Anderson smiled slightly. "Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage of all. How are the joint defense preparations proceeding?" The holographic display activated, showing the status of Operation Guardian Shield. Freed worlds across the galaxy were being equipped with Earth's kinetic weapon systems and quantum detection grids. Never again would a single empire be able to dominate through force. "The Drachnid Empire's remaining territories have all sued for peace," Rodriguez reported. "Their regional governors are practically falling over themselves to establish diplomatic relations. Apparently, our reputation has grown somewhat intimidating." "Not intimidating," Anderson corrected. "Respected. There's a difference. We didn't fight this war to become the next empire. We fought it to ensure no species would ever face subjugation again." The observation deck's doors slid open as Commander Jackson entered, having returned from Pluto. "The Galactic Council representatives are ready for the preliminary meeting, sir. Though I should warn you, they seem rather shocked that we're not interested in joining their governing body." "They'll adapt," Anderson replied. "The galaxy's changing. The old power structures, the old ways of thinking, they died with the Drachnid Empire. It's time for something new." The three officers looked out at the unprecedented gathering of ships. Among them, Earth's vessels stood proud, not through size or ornate design, but through the quiet confidence of proven capability. The Resolute's quantum engines hummed softly, a reminder of how far humanity had come. "Send word to all commands," Anderson ordered. "Operation Liberty Dawn is now in effect. Deploy the Liberation fleets according to plan. Any world that wants our help removing the last traces of Drachnid occupation will have it." As his orders were relayed, Anderson reflected on the path that had led to this moment. Humanity had emerged from isolation, not as conquerors or victims, but as defenders of freedom. They had proven that patience, preparation, and innovation could overcome any obstacle. "The Council representatives are asking about our long-term intentions," Rodriguez mentioned. "What should I tell them?" Anderson gazed at the stars beyond the gathered ships. Countless points of light representing worlds yet unexplored, civilizations yet unmet. "Tell them humanity's intention is simple: to ensure that every species in this galaxy has the right to determine its own destiny. We'll help maintain the peace, share our innovations, and stand ready to defend any world that faces aggression." The sun rose over Earth's horizon, its light reflecting off the assembled vessels. A new age had begun, not one of empires and conquest, but of cooperation and mutual defense. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with a request for acceptance, but with a demonstration of leadership. The Terran Age had dawned, and the galaxy would never be the same.